Next, we'll hear from Senator Lee. Senator Lee, you're recognized for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Davidson, for being here. Mr. Davidson, during your nomination process, you and I spoke about the important role that NTIA has in managing the federal government's spectrum allocations. And I believe it's important that NTIA continue to play this role, that it continue to be the federal government's spectrum manager, and that it be able to make objective decisions and receive cooperation from all agencies involved in making such decisions, including coordinating matters with the FCC. So I want to run through a few quick questions on this front. You agree that in order for the NTIA to be able to fulfill its spectrum management responsibilities that Congress has given it, that the agency needs and requires full cooperation from every agency?
We certainly, yes.
It's interesting that after recent FCC spectrum management decisions, which presumably have gone through the IRAC process, we've had some last-minute objections from some specific federal agencies. Is the NTIA receiving that full agency cooperation that's necessary for the proper spectrum decision-making? I mean, is that, in those circumstances, is that an interruption to what we hope to be the norm?
Well, I'll just say I think this is an area of continued work. And certainly I'd say coordination is critical to do this right. Also, we need to, for example, respect the integrity of our auction process, and not second guess it. So at the same time, we recognize there are very important federal missions, defense missions, aviation missions that need to be met. I think people look at some of the less ideal outcomes of the last few years and say, we do not want to repeat this. So I will just say to you, I detect a renewed energy within the administration. Certainly I've seen that to make sure that we are better coordinated than we have been. And I think that's across the board.
I appreciate that. What about the data? Are you getting the data that you need, including the classified data that you need from agencies in order to make sure that the spectrum decisions are made with all the necessary available information?
We've had good cooperation certainly on the classified side. We have, and I'll just say, for example, we've been in close contact with our colleagues at DoD. There are other areas where we would love more collaboration, but we're working on it.
Okay. As you know, I think NTIA really needs and deserves to have the full cooperation of all government agencies in doing its job, and having that cooperation within the IRAC process, along with FCC coordination, avoids the uncertainty that has far too often been made its way into the spectrum decision-making. And so
we could not agree more, and would welcome the chance to continue to talk to you about that as we move forward.
Great. And I hope you'll continue to work with me on that and to ensure that NTIA and FCC can work together in order to meet our spectrum needs. Let's pivot really quickly to the BEAD Notice of Funding opportunity. I've got a few questions that I wanted to raise with my remaining time. The infrastructure bill, did the statute require NTIA to carry out the BEAD program in a technologically neutral manner?
We are committed to carrying it out in a technologically neutral manner. I will say the statute is, it's not so simple to say that the statute required that, but we are committed to it.
Okay, you're committed to it. In your NOFA, you define a priority broadband project in a manner that seems to favor fiber projects over other technologies. What can you tell me about how, if at all, that definition, how does that definition carry out the technology neutral requirement in the statute, or if you're not acknowledging it as a requirement, the aspiration that you have for that? Doesn't your definition violate that principle?
So we do believe that there should be technology neutrality, and the truth is, the notice does allow for other technologies to be used too. We were required by the statute to define what a priority broadband project is, and in such a way that we felt the most logical and consistent way to do that was to talk about fiber. But we fully expect that the program will be implemented with mixes of technology, and that each state will choose for itself what that mix looks like. Some states will have more fiber. We expect there'll be fixed wireless. We expect there will be low Earth orbit satellites, and different states will make those choices. So we believe that on a whole, the notice does allow that flexibility and is therefore neutral to it. And that was our approach to it.
Okay, thank you. I see my time's expired. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Great.
Thank you, Senator Lee. Next, we'll hear from Senator Rosen. Senator Rosen, you're recognized for